Hello, welcome to the Customer Excellence Podcast. I am your host, Jack Malaco. Today I am joined by Nicole Baqai from Gorgias, and today we're going to have a fantastic conversation. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. Super excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, Nicole, and I'm digging the background. It's very fantasy vibes, and I like how it's animated too. That's fun. There's like a squirrel or something back there. Guys, Nicole is definitely one of those kind of people that knows her stuff. She is the Senior Manager of Strategic Partnerships over at Gorgias. She's also worked at places like Amazon, went to USC in California, go Trojans, and is an all-around fantastic person to talk with. So, Nicole, we've got a couple questions here on the docket today, and we're going to start off with just a little bit of background about you. So why don't you tell us how you got your start in customer support?
Yeah, absolutely. So I originally moved to New York a couple years ago from sunny California. Wanted a change of pace, a little different scene, and I had originally started working with a company that was reinventing the minibar and gift shop at hotels. So I built a huge network of brands. It was everything from skincare to clothing to shoes to whatever you could buy in your hotel room. And, we partnered with a lot of New York hotels. And then the pandemic hit, and so it just didn't really work out. However, I had built such an amazing network that I asked my network, where I should work. I really wanted to be at the intersection of brands and technology. And, one of my favorite brands, Olipop, actually told me, we just started using Gorgias. It's a customer service help desk. You should check it out. And I think they're hiring for the East Coast. And it just so happened they were hiring for a role in New York for the East Coast. And now I'm the one-man team out in New York. Most of the team is in Paris and San Francisco or Toronto, and just kind of hustling the city and the entire East Coast.
That is interesting. So you are literally running the whole show by yourself in New York City. Why New York? Why not San Francisco or Toronto or Paris, for gosh sakes?
So I actually just had always wanted to live in New York. It appealed to me. I had friends here, and it was always on my bucket list. So I decided to make the move, and never looked back, and couldn't be happier with my decision.
That's good to hear. Well, I too like New York. It's one of those cities where it just has a life that I don't think any other city in America has, and it's awesome. I love that. So, Nicole, with the second question as we go into this, I want to know what makes you and what makes Gorgias a customer-focused company?
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, we are a customer service help desk, right? Our customer is always at the center. Our founders are awesome. They really saw a gap in the market to actually create a beautiful customer experience for customers. A lot of the tools out there, we're actually not the best in customer support. So, if you're going to be a customer service tool, you should probably, deliver exceptional support. And there was nothing really out there built for e-commerce specifically. So they took that angle. And then, fast forward to a couple years later, we're now, growing 170 people and over. Last year when I started, and actually a couple months before that, we were 20 people. So just explosive growth. And, I've always appreciated, I think everyone deals with customer service in every point of their lives, whether you're going to the grocery store, whether you're buying online. And so it was something that you could easily relate to. And I do think, being a modern day consumer, I've just always been curious about, how different brands are handling it. And being a customer myself, it was just really something that I thought I could align with and totally understood the vision.
Totally get that. And I like that one point that you made, that we really deal with customer experience in everything we do, from going to the grocery store to trying to set up our cable, which can be a little bit of a hassle. Nicole, let's jump into our third question here. And that is, oftentimes in our careers, we are put in a position where we get to make decisions, but sometimes we make a decision that doesn't necessarily have an outcome that we anticipated. Is there ever a case in your career, whether it was with Gorgias or with one of the other companies that you've worked with, that you made a decision that had an unpredicted outcome?
Yeah, so, I have a few different stories actually. So back when I was an intern at Amazon, I had applied for the role, told them I was extremely, extremely, extremely proficient in Excel. I wasn't
Yeah.
at all. And so then, I sat with my manager. He was like, all right, you got this financial model. I'm like, yeah, sure. I would spend so many hours trying to understand this spreadsheet that was connected to different tabs. And honestly, I got to a point, like, I think it was like halfway through the summer, I finally had to tell him, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Will you please help me? And there was some bittersweetness associated with it. I ended up learning a lot. And I think it pushed me to put in extra hours myself. But, unexpected for sure, because, I didn't actually think I thought I was just going to be a fun summer, internships back then, you never.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, but then I ended up learning Excel, and now I'm obsessed with the tool. I use Google Sheets every single day of my life. So it did have a really nice silver lining to it.
That's good. I mean, I find that moments like that, where you're just vulnerable and candid and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I need some help. That's the best opportunity for lessons to be learned, right? Nicole, I want to know one thing as we talk about that topic. We get put in difficult positions like that sometimes where we have to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. How do you personally approach tough situations like that?
Yeah, I think I learned that vulnerability is a strength. I think, when you put your ego aside and actually are like, hey, I don't understand this problem, and can you help me, and asking for help. When I first onboarded at Gorgias, I didn't know nearly enough about e-commerce. I knew brands. I had a network. I understood the tool. I knew a little bit about Shopify, and I'm constantly learning every day because the e-commerce world is so vast, and there's so much to learn. And just asking questions all the time and not being afraid. And, it doesn't matter what other people think. If, you ask the question, maybe it's a simple one or maybe it's a complex one. And, you find the answers together because we're all just learning. I don't think any single person knows everything every single point of the day of what they're doing. I also think a lot of us, don't know what we're doing some days. You kind of just figure it out on a whim, and that's kind of what life's about. I just always ask questions. No matter how many they are, no matter how simple I think they are, because if I don't understand something, I'm not going to be able to fully do my work well. And so I always push myself to really learn and just let my brain be a sponge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like that old saying, when you're a kid, you look at adults and you think they all know exactly what they're doing. You think they know where they're going in life. And then you become an adult and you go, oh, wait a minute. Nobody really knows what they're doing. We're all just kind of figuring it out as we go.
Exactly. Yeah, every day.
Okay. So, Nicole, what is, in your opinion, the most challenging parts about working in customer service or customer support? Yeah,
I mean, I think that question or that term almost answers itself, right? You're at the, customer service there's philosophies about the customer is always right. And I honestly think that's also very hard for brands because sometimes they aren't right? And you have to have a lot of resilience. I think, again, it goes back to we deal with customer service every single day. I have my own clients. I'm sure you have your own clients, your boss, and there's different hierarchies and management, and then that you have to adhere to. And so you're constantly, trying to strive to be the best, and make sure that you're delivering the best to whoever you're engaging with. And so that's kind of, where it gets tricky with customer service is really staying true to your values. And of course, delivering exceptional support, I think, is a marketing term of itself, because if you deliver great service, people will come back. They want to buy your product. If people hear they're having a pleasant experience with Gorgias, yes, like I heard from a friend, we get so many referrals every single day. And so that's kind of how I view customer service, is like we're as a team delivering the best that we can. And to our customers, to our clients, to, from the top down. And we have our own values that we go by, which is also transparency. So like being extremely transparent when things go wrong, constantly pushing out communication, because, there's no such thing as over communicating, I don't think. And so that's kind of how we handle and how I view customer service, is just be proactive as possible. The worst is when sometimes our customers find things before we do, and it's a beauty that they do see that. But we're all human. We're humans powering software as well. So you have to be kind to yourself, and then also make sure that as long as you can turn that negative experience into a positive one, like that's great customer service.
Absolutely. And no, Nicole, you pretty much answered my follow-up question to that one. And it was, what lessons have you learned from those challenges? But it seems like you really have taken them and run with it, like the learning from each of these challenges. Is there any specific lesson, though, that you can give to our listeners or viewers about these challenges that you faced in customer service?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, there's so much more to customer service, right? Because it's what I've seen is like you think it's just customer service, but then there's warehousing issues, right, that have to be communicated. Oh, yeah. There is an internal switch. I just got an email from a brand that was like, hey, we've replatformed. Sorry for all our delays. We might have missed some things. Please reach out to us. But it was so proactive of them, right? And there's so many moving parts. We get product feedback all the time, and I actually have to talk to the product team. I have to talk to the support team. And just knowing how many layers are, attached to every single comment and every single point of feedback is really interesting. And that's kind of what I've learned overall in customer service is you can find so much value in your feedback, right? Like I tell brands all the time to look at what your brands are saying. Are they asking for this in purple? Start making it in purple. How many times are you getting that inquiry? Do they have this flavor? Start making that flavor, right? There's so much valuable information there that will keep your customers satisfied and drive that retention as well.
Absolutely. It's again, being vulnerable, listening to what your customers have to say. That's a good thing to do. I like that a lot. All right, Nicole, let's jump into a little bit about your background again. Who, if there is anybody, has helped you along your way to get you where you are today, right? Was it a mentor, a community? And what kind of resources have you relied on to get you where you are? It's
hard because it wasn't just one thing. I would say USC was the best decision I made in my life. Like hands down, the network from, the Marshall School of Business out there. I took some entrepreneurship classes and am still in touch with some of my professors. And just in general, like there, if I'm connected with someone on LinkedIn, from USC, like I just immediately feel a connection with them. And the Trojan family really is so reflective of that. Like you build such an affinity to different communities like that. And then, I also got a mentor from USC specifically, and she helped me with every single big life decision that I had to make from a career standpoint. And so that was a huge help. And then, of course, my family is like the first and foremost. I think everyone can say that because your family is the reason why you have drive or, are built a certain way. Someone the other week told me they're also responsible for your triggers. So that's why you have triggers, which is bittersweet too. But yeah, I mean, thanks to them, I feel like I always want to push myself to the deepest limit.
Absolutely. I love that. I like that point about family. All right, Nicole, how have you grown in your career from the very beginning to where you are right now?
I think every part of your career is a stepping stone, right? I worked at Accenture post-college. It was a very corporate role. I was moving between different companies, consulting for them, and it was fun. And, then I realized from there, I was more inspired by working at startups. So then I, made the move. I worked at a startup and that didn't work out. But from that, I learned so much about building connections, building brands, and that I loved e-commerce. And then I ended up in e-commerce, right, at a SaaS company. And so every point of my career has been a stepping stone, and it's been, evolving as a leader. I think when I first graduated, I probably was like that person in the group project that wasn't, doing all the work. There was definitely someone else on my team, and I've slowly transitioned to that person that is doing all the work, but running their own segment. And I love that because I think I needed that time to develop as an individual to grow into this role. And, every part of knowledge has attributed to kind of who I am today.
I like that. All right. This is a kind of a thinker question. A lot of people aren't really sure how to answer this one when I first propose it, but it's something to still consider. What do you think is going to be the next big thing in the customer support world or industry?
There's a lot of things that I hear. So, we are built on automation, right? Automated responses. Right. And I can get into that a little bit later because I think there's a question around that. But for Gorgias, for customer service in general, what the most two feature requests I get are video, right? Because we moved online during a pandemic. People want to be guided throughout, an actual purchasing experience from their homes. And then TikTok is also becoming massive. Can we automate TikTok responses? We just launched Instagram DMs. Service has grown from just email and phone to SMS to, what's it called? SMS, Instagram, Facebook comments. Everything is more than just phone. And so I think those channels are just going to keep expanding. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about omni-channel experience. I think SMS is going to be huge. It already is really huge. People are on their phones all the time. I prefer text. I don't like calling. I like chat. It's instantaneous communication is what we call it. That conversational tone. And I think that's just going to keep growing. And then, more channels like video, potentially TikTok, comments. I think they're all going to be new ad channels.
That's so funny you mentioned TikTok. It's interesting to see brands starting to take on the world of TikTok. It was like when brands first started to get on Twitter and kind of have that personality. You saw like people like Wendy's trying to be a little bit mean to people on Twitter and things like that. I wonder if we're going to see that in TikTok as well.
Totally. Yeah. TikTok is an interesting place for sure. I don't even understand the algorithm, to be honest. It's like one video goes viral. I don't know what happens, but it just does.
Oh, I feel the same way about every single algorithm out there between Google, YouTube, and Instagram. I have no idea because it changes so often. Oh, that's funny though. All right. Let's flip the switch a little bit. So customer support in general, it's one of those lines of business that can tend to be a little bit negative in some people's eyes. You got to deal with customers who are angry or customers who are frustrated, don't know what they're doing. How do you personally stay positive in your role or keep things fun?
Yeah, I think it's hard not to take things personally in those situations. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is just not taking them personally and realizing, okay, this is actually constructive feedback and I can do better, or our team can do better. We can deliver better. And just taking, if you didn't have any of that feedback and that negative feedback, you would just be going about your day. You wouldn't improve anything, right? And so it's almost, it's critical and crucial, and just viewing it as like a point of growth versus like, oh, I feel attacked, like screw that, or screw that person. Like, I don't want to talk to them. But really, like, it might hurt it sting at first, but then you realize, what, they're just telling you, and that's probably a way that you can improve, and it might help you, acquire more customers and keep more customers. You
got to be able to glean info from everything that the customers give you, because otherwise, like you said, we're never going to improve. We're going to think we're doing everything perfectly. The ego is one of the biggest things we need to put aside in the customer support world, because if we come into it all defensive and thinking we're the greatest thing in the world, we tend to get a little bit sensitive when people say something's wrong, right?
Yeah, and trust me, when, I've had my fair share of, I've probably not been the nicest person on the other end, right? And then now being in customer service, I'm like, oh my gosh, these poor humans, right? And they stay so positive. And, there's a lot of offshoring teams as well, like, across the globe, and they're just nice humans doing their job, and it's not their fault, right? And I think that's, we like to take our anger out on people that we don't even know because we think we can get away with it. And then you just realize, like, just dial it back and, try to get your point across and see where it takes you if you can just remain calm.
Exactly. We're all humans at the end of the day. I like that. All right, Nicole, let's jump into the next one. What is one common customer support myth that you'd like to demystify?
So this is where I wanted to get into automation, because oftentimes people are like, oh, I don't want to automate. I lose personalization. I don't want to sound like a bot. And I think that's the huge myth. Automation is meant to make your life easier. You're supposed to work smarter, not harder. And if you're constantly typing out the same thing over and over again and just changing their name and signing it off with your name and pulling in their order data and copying and pasting, you're doing it wrong. That's what automation is, right? At our company, you can pull in all those variables, you can pull in all those details with the click of a button, or automatically allow your team to automate those. Where is my order? Hey, Nicole, this is your order info, X, Y, and Z. You don't need to type that up. You should be making your life so simple. And there's so many tools, just beyond Gorgias as well, that do automation that help you. They take a lot of the legwork out of things to allow you to do your things a little bit better, or to do your customer service a little bit better. And, that I just think is so undervalued. And I often come across smaller founders, right? Like, I think bigger teams, they get it. But small founders are like, oh, like, I can manage it. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to break eventually. you get to a point, and if you're a founder, you should not be spending all your time on those repetitive tasks, right? You should be focusing on scaling the business and finding a tool that allows you to simultaneously scale so that you can have the right processes in place.
It kind of goes back to that idea of like self-service for your customers. The less work that they have to put in on their end to get the final result, I think the better, because the longer they're sitting there trying to figure out or sitting on hold with an agent, that's tough. That is really tough, and it makes for a sour experience. So yeah, automation really is the future. I dig it. I really do. And
we just launched our own self-chat, so that's funny you say that, is like customers can now track their orders, they can escalate, they can cancel, so we don't have to, wait for someone to attend to the email or wait for someone to attend to the chat. They can answer the questions themselves. People want to do that. I want to be able to I love going online and canceling my flights or changing them on my own. I don't want to sit on the phone with, Delta, United, or whoever it may be to get my refund or cancel or, throwback to that.
And it's weird because it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because when you talk to a person, there is that personal touch and there's that room for, I guess, variability, right? Say you want to cancel a flight or switch your flight and you're talking to a human. Well, they can help you out. If you're talking to a bot, there's only so much you can do. But at the same time, when you're doing that self-service, you can knock that out in 2 minutes versus 20 minutes to 2 hours, right? So it goes both ways, I think.
I think the quicker you can get to respond, we've actually shown that it drives your conversion rate, up to 28% if you can respond in a certain amount of time. So I think 28% was if you respond within 10 minutes, your conversion rate is way higher for new customers and customers who haven't purchased within 30 days. So again, that's, we talk about response time. People are like, oh, well, I can't hire a huge team. I'm like, that's why you have automation. You can answer those tickets. If people know that they're going to get quick and efficient customer support, they're going to want to come back. Right? They're going to be like, this was easy. This was not a nightmare. And how many nightmare stories have you had and then you never want to purchase again? That's what I say when it's a marketing tool of itself, because it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's weird. When you view the world of customer support, it's almost the last place the customer wants to go. They don't usually want to get on the phone and talk to someone and say, like, okay, how do I set up my new Blu-ray player or something like that? It's not really where they want to be. They want their stuff to just work, or they want the process to be easy. So automation, at the end of the day, makes that easy.
I like that a lot.
All right, Nicole, where can our viewers or listeners connect with you online?
Add me on LinkedIn, but you can also email me, Nicole@gorgias.com, and it's not the traditional way of spelling gorgeous. It's Gorgias. And if you're a brand, we're offering 2nd and 3rd months free with the SupportNinja referral. So let us know. It's best if you email me, or, I know Jack is going to provide a link that you guys can click on. But yeah, it's super key that you say you heard about us from this podcast and from SupportNinja.
Perfect. Yeah, guys, please take advantage of that. It's an amazing deal. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I'm saying it because it's actually great. All right, Nicole, let's get into our final question of today. This podcast, as you know, is called the Customer Excellence Podcast. And I want to go into that for this last question. What does that term mean to you, customer excellence?
I mean, we strive for excellence every day. I think that's kind of goes back to everything to tie it all together about, excellence comes in, being the best customer for yourself first and foremost. I think you're your own best friend. So if you can deliver that for yourself, you're going to be way better to deliver it for other people. And then doing that in every day with your team, with your clients, with your customers, with your boss, with your sister, with your family. Customer excellence is everywhere. And I think, when you can feel good, on your own, you can deliver that to others. And so that's kind of what I mean when it comes to customer service, because I think it's all facets, not just for e-commerce brands, but specifically for this topic, most likely, most relatable is to e-commerce brands who are trying to improve their customer service. And the best way to do it is find cool tools and useful tools that drive your efficiencies and, figure out like a strategy around how can you deliver customer excellence in every touch point that you do as a brand.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure chatting with you and learning more about the world of customer support and customer excellence.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to see this come live.
Absolutely. And thank you to the listeners and to the viewers. Remember, if you want to listen to this, Support Driven is your spot. If you want to watch it, SupportNinja is the place to be. I'm your host, Jack Malacco. I'll see you in the next one.